Earlier today, I spoke with an expert who shared his views with us on the current situation in the Middle East. Let's take a look. Tonight, we're tracking the developments in the Middle East, where the confrontation involving the US, Israel and Iran is already affecting markets, shipping routes and investor sentiment. For Thailand and the region, the question is, how will this war impact our overall economy? Joining us now is Dr.Somjai Phagaphasvivat, independent economic and political analyst. สวัสดีค่ะอาจารย์
ครับ สวัสดีครับ
Thank you very much for joining us. Before we talk about Thailand, how serious is this situation? Do you see this as staying limited or could it escalate further?
I think it's not limited, but I don't know how long does it last. According to Trump, he said that about 4 weeks, maybe longer or lesser. So it means that the things, the war goes on, at least for the foreseeable future, it's not that just ended. It would take at least 2 weeks at the minimum, as I think. It may be quicker. I expect that it will be long, according to what Trump has already said, because the situation is really fluid. No one can predict that what will be the end game in the near future.
What we can see now is that the oil prices have reacted immediately. How do you see that affecting Thailand directly?
I think that the impact is limited for the time being because we could not anticipate what will be the impact until we see the end game. But at least for the short term, we can see a short-term indication. First of all, the price of oil has been risen to now it's about 78 or 80 blend. But I don't know how will the market react. It could be, for example, higher. It depends on the ongoing war. That is one thing. Secondly, it would affect, for example, the tourism. If you look at the overall tourism in Thailand to what we call the Middle East make up of about 100 million tourists coming to Thailand, and the bulk of the Middle East make up of in Saudi Arabian and United Arab Emirates. That is one thing. And secondly, we export to the Middle East, including the Africa, about 4% of the market share. And the bulk of the export belong to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. But this is what we call the overall. But the picture is now is short term.
But how exposed are Thai exporters if instability continues?
We are, for example, it will affect at 2 ways. One is directly. We trade with the Middle East, as I have already given the share in tourism. But what will affect, for example, if the price of oil went up, for example, go up to, for example, to a considerable level, now it's just psychologically. But if, for example, the refinery is crashed or if affected in a meaningful way, then the price of oil will be higher in a structural way. We don't know what happened. It depends on how the end game. But what we can see is that if there is no, for example, damage to the refinery of the Gulf Cooperation members, the thing will be end up with a little bit of impact. But if the oil market has been structurally damaged, it will impact what we call structurally. That will be given us for example, both damage on export and import, and indirectly towards, for example, the lowest growth rate of the world, and also affect us indirectly. It depends on how the situation unwind in the end.
But what about the financial markets? We're seeing investors being pretty cautious or worried at this point.
Well, I think that if you look at all these things, what will affect us apart from export, tourism, the financial market, as you see the stock market and also the gold. But what we have to be occupied, what will be the price of oil, because that affects the inflation. Now, inflation is on the downtrend, but if the price of oil is going up in a structural way, that would be a big problem, not only for Thailand, but for the whole world. So it depends on how the situation affected in the near future, particularly the price of oil and the price of gas. Keep in mind that Hormuz make up of the oil, made up of 1/3 of the oil flow and also 1/3 of the gas. Okay, but anyway, what we have seen today is not the Hormuz, but what we worry us more is how, for example, the refinery of the Middle East country been damaged in the Kosovo.
So probably today is a bit too soon to anticipate the impacts from the ongoing conflicts. But then again, let's come back to President Trump. Trump says military action will continue, but has also hinted talks. Is there a realistic path to de-escalation? What do you think Washington ultimately wants from this?
If you look at the other side of the Iran, said Iran no negotiation because what Iran is wanted end game is this asymmetry war. Iran know that the firepower is a lot less than American. What they think as a win, if for example Iran could blow, for example, damage on the personnel of the American, particularly the soldier, and for example, the oil damage to the member of the crowd situation, and also the blow to the damage to the tourism over this country. If the blow is effective, it could force, for example, all these allies American have to ask Trump to stop all these things. So this is what the objective, not to win the war, but to blow, give a damaging blow to the situation, particularly the oil and the economy of the ally of the American. But if that does not happen, the other side, I mean, American and in Israel will win the war in the effect. But win the war is not the end game, because what Trump wants is to trigger what we call regime change. How could you trigger the regime change without having what we call the ground force? In the history, without the ground force, you could not force, for example, the change of the regime. So what happened is that Trump may be this miscalculation about what called the end game. He hasn't seen over the truth, for example, until the end. That is maybe a miscalculation in that sense.
And that's all the time we have. Thank you very much, Ajahn Somjai, for joining us and helping us understand the bigger picture.